What's going on, folks? Welcome to 34 Questions. Today I have a very special guest, Aaron, the host of Escape from San Francisco podcast. Welcome to the show, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
No doubt, man. No doubt. I can't help but admire other creators, and came across your stuff, decided to reach out. For everyone out there, we're total strangers. It's the first time we're ever meeting. So I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to get to know you. From the bottom of my heart, man, I definitely appreciate it. In case for the people out there who don't know how the format is of the show, we do a couple intro questions to set the tone. I have a little icebreaker for the guest, and then we jump into the main meat where they pick a number between 1 and 34, and we kind of flow with the conversation that way, and we end it all up with some concluding questions. Sound good to you, Aaron?
Sounds great.
All right, man. My very first question for you is, how have you been? You doing well? You going through it? How you been, man?
Actually, I've been good. I mean, over the past month and two, I've got my vaccination. I work at a health clinic, and so I was one of the lucky ones that worked in the field and got their vaccination. I kind of felt like guilty because I was young and healthy about getting it, and so I had some reservations about putting it out there that I did get it, but I got it too, to show other people that it was at a time when people didn't want it. Now there's a lot of people getting it, so you don't really hear that anymore. But I got mine back in January, and there was still a lot of negativity around it, people uneasy, uncertain. So there's a lot of that. So I did that, and then I also got my grandparents to get vaccinated. They're in their late 70s and early 80s, and so getting them vaccinated in my hometown, Fresno, that kind of took a lot of stress off of me, and it allowed me to be more relaxed, because I know they were the most vulnerable population. And so doing that, it kind of helped me a little bit, just be okay going into this year. And then I started my podcast last year, started picking up steam now, and it turned more than just a podcast. I'm actually in the community helping out and meeting great people and organizations. And last weekend we did an outreach project with Myriad Outreach Project. One of the founders, Mike, you can follow him on Instagram, a lot of paper planes. He's a really great individual, very intellectual, and just there for the people. And we just gave out 150 meals, and we did them primarily in the Tenderloin. So I feel good about that going into this week. I can't complain. Weather's nice. Springtime.
Yeah, money. But yeah, man, I'm glad you're doing well. Tell me more about your podcast, man. Escape from San Francisco. First, how'd you get that name?
Well, I've always been interested in podcasts, especially when I started college, 2011. Just getting into it from recommendations from friends and stuff. So, the big ones, Joe Rogan podcast. You had, obviously that's a staple that everyone knows, that one. But then over the years, I kind of lost track of podcasting and didn't really care that much. And then I started getting to other ones. It wasn't just Joe Rogan podcast. It was like some that had a certain niche, psychology podcast, story podcast, and there's just so many, and it was just intriguing and grabbing my attention. I was still in college at the time, and I just went to Cal State East Bay 2015, and it was helping me get through those times. I was struggling. I wasn't making that much money. I was a college student. I was trying to find my own, just listening, trying to find the right answers. I have two questions I didn't even know. And then turn the page to 2020, pandemic hits and everything. I was trying to start a podcast at that time. I had a co-host that was my roommate. Pandemic hit, he ended up moving back. And so it just fell apart, and I didn't end up doing it. I was struggling for a while. I still wanted to do it. I finally left the job I was at, and I had free time. And so I started planning. I was coming up with concepts. I was coming up with names. I was like, can I do this by myself? How am I going to format it? I didn't even know you needed gear. I didn't even know you needed software. I didn't know anything. I didn't know ins and outs about audio, video. I didn't know nothing. So I did my research. I was coming up with a name for a month. Had all kinds of wacky names. And so I looked back over the notes I had, and I realized, what was I thinking? Fast forward to today. Long story short, I came up with the name Escape from San Francisco podcast, not because I wanted to escape here, but because I wanted to escape out of my room. And so And it ties in. I work at Escape from New York Pizza, which is on Haight Street in San Francisco.
That's funny.
And so I tied the name in together. And sometimes people ask me like, "Oh, did you get that name because you hate San Francisco and you want to leave?" And I'm like, "No, it was just being ironic. It wasn't even that, like, it was not even that deep, honestly. I just wanted to have conversations with people, and the name was kind of went with the place I worked at the time, and that was it. And that's how I got it. And now I'm out there doing podcasts with people, and I'm meeting people in the community, and then I come across individuals like you and get invited onto a podcast, which is an honor. And now I'm doing something I really like, and this is enjoyable. I don't know what I was thinking by not starting it sooner. I wish I would have started years ago, and I was trying, but I wasn't really serious. So
no, 100%, man. I completely relate to that story in the sense, hey man, you're more of a pro than me. If you've been doing this for a year or so, I started doing it maybe like 3 months ago, or in the beginning of January. I was in a job where I had a lot of downtime where I could listen to podcasts. And then I was like, yo, this is kind of dope. And I think, I love having conversations with people, and especially about like really deep stuff and not so much surface things. Just because I've had the small talk a lot in my life, and it's like, it's not the same. Like, I don't feel like I'm getting to know people. I feel like, people are, if we talk surface, it's all like, how can I come off in a good way to people, and it wasn't like what I was digging. So yeah, created the podcast just the same reason you, man. Have good conversations with people, and there's people out there that I think like that. There's people out there who find it interesting. That's why podcasts are popping like crazy. But yeah, man, no doubt. We'll talk more, man. I don't know, like I'm just being so upfront with you, but we got to find a way to link up and collaborate and stuff. I think we both got similar interests and what we're trying to strive for. So we'll definitely talk more about it. But yeah, my second question for you is, what would you like your descendants to know about you? The way I frame this is that I spent a lot of my time like trying to figure out who I am, and there were times when I would think, I wonder what my ancestors were like. I wonder if they're anything like me, and what kind of guidance or just to know something about them, because we can't reach that far back into our histories. So this is a moment for you to kind of reach forward, and if there's any like descendant of yours 5 generations down kind of going through the same thing, I want to know what my great grandfather was like, great uncle. What would you want them to know about you?
This is like one of the deepest questions someone's ever asked me. And before we started this, he had asked me that, and I was like trying to come up with something that was like nice, something that was not like, cliche.
Don't worry, man.
In reality, I really, really don't know. Not because I don't want to, try or think of something to have a meaningful impact on generations, in the future. It's just because I look at my own past. My grandfather, from my dad's side, was born in Mexico, but was an orphan. And so my dad never knew his grandparents. Right. And my grandfather only spoke Spanish, and I'm Mexican descent, but I don't speak Spanish. And I never had a full conversation with them. And that was kind of hard. So I really don't know the history of my family. I never really talked to my dad about it a lot. And so I don't know what my ancestors are like on my father's side. I do know more on my mother's side, and they spoke English. And so I was able to get stories passed down like that. And I think about that now and realize, like, you just pointed out, how could I make an impact on the younger generation that I have? And I never knew that podcasting might be an option, or videos might be an option. I'm starting to take education more serious. I do get my bachelor's degree, and I've been planning to go back for my grad degree. Doing that makes me want to leave a legacy behind, that to show that where we came from didn't have to be what everyone else is doing all the time, right? I want to go on, become educated, become an intellectual, make an impact in the field that I'm trying to strive and change. And so not only does it benefit the younger generation that comes after me, my own, legacy, but it could make an impact on everyone else. And so I know that kind of seems far out there, but that's what I'm kind of striving for right now. And so I think that might be it for me. My podcast might have a little bit to do with that. Maybe doing videos that I've done in the past might have a little bit to do with that. But in the end, I would love for them to see the impact I had by being involved in the community, by helping others, by just everyone knew me as a good person, and just being that person that was able to solve problems and being able to help as many people as I can.
Dope, man, dope. And listen, I just met you, and I think I'm picking up on the vibe for sure. So it comes out naturally, and that's a important thing for sure. And yeah, don't worry about you're coming off cliche or anything. I think through the podcast and through your answers, they'll kind of get to know you a little bit more, just based on your perspective, and that's why the questions are there. But yeah, my third question for you is, how would you like to be honored? If I was gonna honor Aaron today or tomorrow, what could I do to honor you?
The best way to honor me is to let everyone know the kind of person I was. That's the best way I can be honored, is by being a good friend, being a good boyfriend, being a good brother, just being a good community member. And if I could be honored that way, that's all I would like. And that's all I would need, and that would make me the happiest.
Dope, man, for sure. I'll keep that in mind, and I'll definitely say this one's for Aaron for sure. And my fourth question for you is, how well do you know yourself? If it's hard to put into words, you could just do a scale from 1 to 10.
Do I know myself? I don't think I know myself entirely well, and I don't think anyone. When I say that, I don't think anyone does, right? We're always ever changing and growing. Or at least we hope we are. That's part of life. It's you're adapting, you're changing, you're growing. What I liked a year ago, I might not like today. I was really into fishing into the pandemic, and I bought all this gear. I have my license. I did everything, and I haven't even went fishing in a couple months, and I'm on to new things, and things changed. But as far as knowing myself, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say probably like a 7. There's still 3 things that are left unanswered, and I think those things are very important, but I think I will learn them over time as I get older, mature, and go through life.
No doubt. I mean, personally for me, I give myself a 5. I think I like to keep it in that medium range, because in my life, I feel like in my highest moments, I feel like that's when I know myself the most. But then in my lowest moments, that's when I feel like I don't know myself at all. And like you said, that just changes throughout life, man, the ups and downs. So, staying at a 5 gives me that space to learn more and not feel like, oh, I know everything about myself, because like you said, man, things change. And I did spend time during the pandemic as well, just like going through old hobbies and trying to figure out like what drew me into that hobby. And like, not everything stuck, but doing something like this is what propelled me into making the podcast. And yeah, so now I kind of like have a better idea. At least I know that about myself. I know I like having good conversations with people that's, deeper than the surface. But yeah, no doubt. So now's the icebreaker portion. It is a spelling bee. It's just one word. Feel free to participate, and also feel free to say no if you don't want to do it. It's all good.
I'll definitely participate, but I'm not the strongest speller, but I'll give it a try.
All right, no doubt. So the word is liaison, and I could give you like a definition if you need one, or yeah.
Oh, I know how to spell this.
Oh, you do? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Wait, I'm too confident right now. All right, I know it's Laison.
You got one.
Laision.
You got one more chance.
Wait.
You're close. One more chance.
I'm trying to think right now. I use this word all the time.
You were so close, man. You were so close on that try.
Last try. I'm trying to think right now. Laision. Easy. Oh, I put it backwards. Oh.
It's Liaison.
I'm horrible.
Don't even trip, man. Don't even trip. Only 2 people have gotten that word right, so don't feel bad. If everybody finds it tricky, I would have found it tricky. Yeah.
I have an issue with letters. I always flip them all the time. I'm dyslexic, but in my head it looked right. But when I'm spelling it out, I'm like, damn, I'm a horrible speller. And I knew that. It's whatever.
Yeah, man, it's whatever. It's whatever, man. It was just for fun. But yeah, don't worry about it. And like I said, I would love to have you on another podcast down the road about a different topic, and it doesn't even have to be about spelling or nothing. Because the reason why I do this is because eventually I want to have a spelling bee episode with all the guests who get the right word. So yeah, that's why I have it in there. But yeah, man. Let's jump into the main meat of the interview, where you choose a number. Go for it. Between 1 and 34.
1 and 34. Okay, so I'll pick 22. 22 was my baseball number. That was the number I gravitated towards when I played high school and I played in college. So
for sure. Well, before I should say that number, why 22? Did you have a player that you looked up to, or did it just kind of find you?
I think that was the only jersey that was available at the time. Yeah. Of a couple numbers, so I just picked it, and then I just gravitated towards it. It was 22 and 5. Those are like the 2 numbers I went back to. 5 because of 25 of Barry Bonds, and then 2 had the 2 and the 25. So it's always connected somehow.
I hear you. I mean, 34 for me because I grew up in a lot of power players. I was a big kid back when I was younger, and I wanted to be like them, and I wasn't fast and they were strong and I was strong, so that's how I connected to them. So 22. What is the greatest gift you've ever received?
Greatest gift I ever received. I'm trying to think back.
Yeah. No, there's no rush. There's gonna be like music playing in the background, so take your time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Greatest gift I ever received. Oh my, I've received this. I just talked about this with my buddy. Trying to think now. Greatest gift. I was probably like 6 years old, and I got it for present. So I got this gift and I opened it up, and it was like a speaker, computer speakers, like a box. And I'm like, oh, nice, I got computer speakers. Yeah. I was just one of those, I was just really gullible, dumb, naive kids. I really thought I got computer speakers, and I was like, oh, wow, nice, I got computer speakers. And then they're like, no, open the box. And I opened the box, and it was like my first baseball glove. So my first baseball glove I got in there. I was like 5 years old or something. I was that young, and I remember pulling it out, and I was like, I couldn't stop wearing it. I couldn't stop, trying to go play catch. And I always, wanted to be like my brother who played all the sports and stuff. And so I wanted to go emulate him and go throw the ball to him while he took, batting practice or whatever it might have been at the time. But I remember that was one of the most precious gifts I got, even though it was a little cheap, a little rubber glove at the time. It was still perfect.
Yeah, man, that's a great story. I don't think so. My folks, they basically, I don't think they knew me well enough to get me something that was crazy good, but they would fool me sometimes and get me something and then have an envelope stuck somewhere. But yeah, there would be plenty of times when I'm just all oh, thanks, and then if I'm oh shit, thank you, it just change the tone for sure. But yeah, great story, man. Thanks for sharing. Shoot me another number.
I'll go 5 this time.
Okay, nice. What's the best performance you've ever witnessed? It could have been a concert, a play, a dance. What sticks out in your mind?
Well, best performance ever. I was a scene kid. I'm gonna be 29 years old this year, and I was in that scene kid phase, emo rock, that type of phase when I was in my early teenage years, and that helped develop me a lot. I was really shy, timid back then, and I had a core group of friends that were into that, and I was the opposite, right? I was coming from a different, kind of background as them. I would never listen to rock before I started hanging out with them, and they got me into it. And so we're from a small little country town. We used to go to Fresno, which is the bigger city, and we'll go watch shows there. And I remember being 13 years old maybe at the time. And we went to go watch a show in Fresno, and the band was called Scaring Kids, and it was like a super emo type of band. And I just remember, like, me and my friend, I think it was my friend Julian at the time, we were both like, I remember we're both like right in front, and they were playing like my favorite album, and I just remember just like being mesmerized as a kid. And I was not taking no substances, I wasn't doing nothing crazy at the time. I was just like there enjoying the moment and the music. And I don't think I was ever able to replicate that later in life. I've been to some great shows and stuff, but nothing was ever the same as that. Like, just for whatever reason, it was only a small crowd and everything, but just that time in my life, that was like probably the greatest thing I've ever seen.
That's dope, man. That's cool. You got to go to a concert so young. For me, I never even, like, I had one opportunity. I'm turning 31 this year. And I think I was around 13, 14. But my cousins, I have, all my cousins out here are all women. And they were trying to bring me to, it was an NSYNC Britney Spears concert at the time. Yeah. But I was and I was just like, nah, man, I don't want to go. I kind of regret not going, because, it's one of those times where, like, I think now I feel like every concert I've ever been to, I've been on some kind of, like, recreational thing. And I wish that, maybe my next concert I'll try to go sober, just so I can get like the full grasp and the full reality of what's happening. But
well, those are like legends, right? You probably will never see those two together again. Even at the time, you don't recognize, like, my girlfriend bought tickets to go to see Kanye West, and we saw him when he performed at Oracle, when he had the moving stage. Yeah, that was another time where, like, the performance was like amazing, because there was like a crowd on the bottom just following the stage everywhere, and wow. we were there, just like certain parts, and it was just like, it was wild. I remember just being scared for my life sometimes, because it was like a huge mosh pits, and I was like, how is this happening at this time? But stuff like that, I guess, is like really, I don't think that's ever gonna happen again.
Yeah, man. I mean, Kanye is a crazy performer. I unfortunately have never been to one of his shows, but everyone who's told me that they've been to, it's like, the production value is sky high. Like, he has this vision that he wants everybody to experience, and I'm like, damn, hopefully I can get a chance to go if he ever does it again. Well, on the topic of Kanye, like, I don't like to speak ill about anybody, really, but I know he's such a polarizing figure. I have to kind of ask you, what are your thoughts on his legacy?
Well, I think Kanye, he's a genius, right? I
believe so.
A music genius. He produced a lot of music before he even became, popular himself for his own music. He changed the trajectory on what it meant to have his type of personality, and also his marketing skills and his publicity and his fame and everything, and building up an empire to where he's at today. His music, I really liked it. I really like his old stuff. His old stuff I was like really into, especially when I was in high school, and then getting into my adult age. I do like his music still. Some of his antics, I don't really care for him as a person. I think that kind of like throws me off, like that narcissism and stuff like that. But he's diagnosed bipolar, and if you work in the mental health field, you understand, working with people like that, some things are out of their control, especially when it comes to the mental health. And so I don't go as hard on them as other people might. But you could like someone's music without liking their views. You could I believe you could like a sports athlete without liking their views. You could like certain people, like what they produce, without actually liking them as a person, because you don't know them as a person. I don't know him personally or anything like that, but I know that I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to know him as a person. I wouldn't want to be in that situation. But he is what he is. He's a genius at what he does. No doubt. I think some tactics are kind of like out there and outlandish and kind of crazy, but he built up an empire with music and his clothing and everything. And so it takes some type of genius to do that.
For sure. I mean, I agree on the genius. I agree on, like, how he's revolutionized music as far as, well, I can't even say it's just hip hop, right? Because he's done so many experimental things that, he's tapped into a bunch of other genres. I would I wouldn't say I disagree, but I would still like to meet him. I would still want to get to know him, because the thing about celebrities, everything is like out of context. We don't know these people, right? Like they're still people, and if we could get to know them, maybe we'd have a whole different view, or like at least talk to them. But yeah, for me, I still got love for Kanye, no matter how crazy he can be. But like, I only know what I know through the screens and through media and stuff, and I don't think that's the whole story. That's where I'm kind of like, yeah, people are giving him such a hard time. It's because that's the only side we see of him, but I can definitely, like, I can respect the fact that he does like to have his alone time. Like with Kanye, you don't hear from him for like a long ass time, and all of a sudden, boom, there's some crazy story about him doing something. Sometimes it's about the publicity, sometimes it's like, oh, he has a project coming up, so he wants his name circulating around. I think he's smart enough to know that's what happens. But yeah, like, yeah, enough Kanye talk. I don't want to talk too much about him. Go ahead and throw me another number, man.
So this number, I will go with 17.
17. All right. This one's a little heavy, and feel free to skip it if you want to. But okay. How would you define depression?
Depression is, everyone goes through it, whether you realize it or not. There's seasonal depression is a real thing, right? When the seasons change, becomes wintertime, there's not a lot of sun out there, people get depressed. They're not doing their normal routine. But depression, as like the general rule of depression, it's so broad, right? Depression can affect people in different ways. I come from the addiction and mental health field. I've been doing that for the last 4 years. And so I've worked with people that are very depressed. I worked with people that have tried to commit suicide multiple times. I've had a 5150 people in the past. If anyone doesn't know what that is, it's where you have to call emergency services because someone is a danger to themselves and others. I've seen the worst of what it could be. And I've seen people on medication that are trying to get their life back, that are antidepressants. They need to have them in order to have a normal type of life. They're not able to be normal without them. And it might be due because of their substance use. It might due because of traumatic events in their life, or they just have chemical imbalances where they're more prone to depression than others. And so it's really hard to gauge what depression really is to each individual, because it could vary so much. I see a lot on social media that people throw it out there all the time, like, oh, I'm depressed, or I'm this, They may be, but I don't think they really understand what they're saying when they throw it out there like that. So that kind of like bothers me a little bit, because depression is a heavy topic and is a heavy thing to actually have and go through. And if you know someone that's depressed, it's really hard to get them out of that state of mind. And it's not for you to get them out of there. It's for them to get help, whether it's through therapy, whether it's through medication, whether it's through career change, lifestyle change, whatever it might be. There's ways to get help, but it's to identify it and to address it in a proper manner. Because if it goes untreated and unaddressed, it can lead to devastating effects. I'm gonna share this, and it's something that happened during the pandemic, which really messed up my family. My sister, her roommate, she committed suicide in their apartment, and my sister was one of the first ones that found her. And I kept thinking, like, damn, my sister she's gonna be messed up from this. She's gonna have a tough time with it. I could just see it. I just already know, working with people that been through that, like, I could just know. And she's still struggling with it. And we're from a small town. The firefighters on the scene, I was hoping my friend that's a firefighter back home wasn't one of the firefighters that was there. And he told me no, I wasn't. And that like made me feel relieved. I'm like, yeah, he don't need to see this, but that's part of his job as well. And so one impact like that affected a whole community. She left behind a child, a grieving family, and a grieving friend. And so the devastation and impact that comes from this, it's vast. And if people need help, try to help them in many ways you can. And if you can't, don't take it upon yourself that it was your fault that you couldn't get them help. And that's my 2 cents on it.
Dude, I just want to say thank you for opening up and sharing that story. That's fucking bananas. And yeah, depression like is crazy, man. Like for me, I think I like to think when I was between 12 and 18, man, like I cried myself to sleep like almost every night. And I had my reasons why I was pretty much, feeling that way. I kind of was able to run away from it for a little while, between college and up to recently, honestly. And yeah, like that's why I feel so much for your sister, for her roommate. It's I can't even put it into words. You see me stumbling over my words, man, because there's just so many thoughts that run through my head about that. I do have a soft spot for anybody that really does feel depressed. Because it's so self-inflicting, like it's something that like no one else is really putting upon you except for yourself. And and it's cool that you're working in that field, man, because there's a lot of people who do need that help. And yeah, when people put it out there, like on social media and stuff, that's my love-hate relationship with like putting stuff out there, because sometimes I'm not going to accuse anyone about anything, but like sometimes it's just to be a part of the conversation or to be a part of the group that's hurting. But like I can't imagine all the people who don't post stuff, who kind of just keep it to themselves and don't reach out for help. I think that's the toughest part, is that like if one of my friends was feeling like going through it, and yeah, they didn't say anything, but like yeah, how could you say someone would be able to help more or reach out more, like with you working in the field?
Yeah, it does take, it takes people to reach out sometimes, and you might even know, like when that happened, no one knew. They didn't even suspect that to be something that could even happen. And so when that plays out, it's like, what did I miss? What could I have done different? You start to go over those questions, and so they're really challenging things to tackle and to go forward. As a society, we do a horrible job with mental health in this country. We do a horrible job with substance use and addiction in this country. We do a horrible job at being punitive and locking people up for using substances, whether it's recreational or whether it's due to addiction. And so if we really want to get society better, we have to address those in a humane and just way, rather than punitive and throwing people to the outskirts of society and labeling them as whatever we do and shaming them, because that doesn't help and that doesn't fix or address the issues that we face today.
Yeah, why do you think we're so bad at it? Like why do you think we haven't addressed mental health? I feel like in like society in general, like all over the world, it's something that people don't want to talk about. People don't want, or like, it's like, oh, you're just going through a phase, or oh, like it's not that big of a deal. I feel like those are said everywhere,
Well, mental health has evolved since the early 1900s, right? We're barely getting research and theories out there that are relatively new, that are done from the 1900s or early 1900s to the 50s and 60s to modern day. So I think it's like new in a way where we're trying to address it and to make it more known and out there, because a lot of people never talked about their feelings. Society, we always repress everything, or we use substances to deal with what we're going through. It was never. We're seeing a new thing where people are openly talking about their issues. They're openly talking that they're going to a therapist. That was never, you hid that before, right? You never want to mention any of that, because that was a sign of weakness, or that was a sign that you're unhealthy. That's a sign that you might be crazy, whatever it might be. And so society, we are opening up a little, but it's a little too late for what we have. And I think as far as the substance issue goes, it became a money thing, and it became primarily a way of holding a certain group of individuals, having a power over them. And it's also with mental health, there's just no money behind helping individuals that have mental mental health disorder. It's easier to, push them to the side and throw money on it sporadically and hope it gets better, but it doesn't. If you're in the Bay Area and you realize, or if you ever been out on the homeless, areas, like encampments and stuff like that, and where there's a dense population, you could tell which individuals have mental health, because they'll be playing out, having episodes throughout the day or throughout their time when you're in that area. You can also see a lot of them have addiction. You could tell that a lot of them just need help in a way that our government should be able to address it. And as far as like a worldview or worldwide, how come we haven't addressed it? I don't know. I think I would need to talk to someone, or have like someone that has that background, or someone more intelligent than what I can explain. I just know like a little bit where I can see that it needs to be addressed. I'm coming from a criminal justice major background, so I studied like the criminal system and how we became one of the most punitive countries in the world, and how we have a high population or a high incarceration rate, and a vast majority of those incarcerated are from nonviolent drug-related offenses, and we use that as a crutch rather than giving out help.
I got you. Thank you for your insight, man. And yeah, you'll definitely, be expanding your intelligence level as you go on throughout your life. I'm sure you'll learn more and, experience more. For me, it's all about talking to people who have that experience. Sometimes that's how I kind of gather my information and knowledge. But yeah, thank you for that. Go ahead and pick another number. Hopefully we get something a little bit lighter.
Okay, so I picked 17. That's my girlfriend's birthday, and so that's always a good number. Try to pick another one. I'll go with 1.
1. What is something in your life that you've taken control of? There's a lot of things out of our control, but what's something for you that you feel like you've kind of got it and you're trying to hold on to it?
I think that is controlling my ability to talk to people, controlling my ability to have a presence and being able to communicate, and not be scared of public speaking. I think I've got control of that for the most part. I haven't spoke to hundreds of people or even anything nowhere near that size, but I was like everyone. Public speaking is people are scared of that more than they are of dying. If you're public speaking more than if you're deaf. And I understand it's terrifying. No one wants to do it. And taking like a small communications class helped me out tremendously. I'm able to communicate my words, my thoughts, in a way where people can understand what I'm trying to, my point in trying to get across. But it also gives you confidence when you're able to have the ability to communicate and speak. You don't have some of those issues that you have when you're younger, or whether you deal before you are able to communicate. And for me, it was insecurity, it was negativity, it was a lot of issues, and I was like shy and timid because of that. But I always had an outgoing personality. I was always the one to make jokes and have a good time around my friends and family. But other people I didn't know, I'll just be quiet. I wouldn't talk. I wouldn't put myself out there like that. Now I'm trying to open up a little bit, and I think I have control over being able to have that ability to do so.
No doubt. Do you have any tips for anybody who might be struggling with public speaking?
If you're college age, or even if you're not, and you need really help to speak in public, try to take a communications course. You need practice. You have to practice in order to speak in front of others, especially if you need to do it for your job. That would be one of my first tips. Check with your local junior college or their Skillshare, which is a platform where people teach you how to do certain things, or online. There's so much free education out there that you can find to work on how to communicate, to communicate in front of others. If you're just trying to communicate one-on-one, that's easy. Go to YouTube and try to look up, or Google search, how to communicate with others, how to do interview setting, how do you talk, how do you have presence, how do you, body language, eye contact, all that stuff. That's something you can find. But if you have fear of speaking in front of others, I strongly suggest taking a course at your local community college, because that takes practice. And that took me years to develop being able to do that, because now I do that for work and do that in other settings, and being able to talk in front of other people, I feel comfortable doing that more so than I ever done before. I don't know why, but something clicked, and that helped me out a lot. Just repetition, and learning how to understand what you're trying to say before you say it, and not to feel the nervous part about it, right? Not to let fear overcome what you're trying to do, but to be prepared. And for when I do things, I'm prepared. I like, if I'm speaking in front of a group of people, I want to make sure I have points across, whether I carry a little cue card with me and I have like 5 points. I don't have the detailed pages. I'm not going to be reading off like a little summary to them. I'm going to have detailed points of what I'm going to, and it just sparks like in my head, have ideas, and I just go with it from there.
For sure.
My little...
Yeah. I mean, practice, man. And if a class is going to help you practice, sign up for a class, or, any kind of information that's out there. You ever, like, I know for me, when I used to public speak, or I guess technically we are public speaking on this podcast, but you ever get that, like, that shake in your vocal cords? I know for me, I used to get that like crazy anytime I stood in front of a crowd. But then, go ahead.
I used to, yeah, but if I'm prepared, no. When I'm stammering and stuff like that, that's because I'm thinking of things, and I'm good at doing things on the fly, especially public speaking. I only get like that when I'm talking about something that I'm a very emotional person, so I get emotional real quick if I'm talking about something and it's very impactful. I get that in my voice. But as far as being scared and nervous, I don't really get that anymore. I don't really get that feeling, and it's maybe I'm overconfident, or I just put myself in that position where I'm not trying to do more than what I could do. So I work with what I have and making sure I know something. If I don't know anything about the topic I'm trying to talk about, yes, it would be daunting, and I probably would do that a lot. But if I just know a little bit, I could go with that in different ways. For
sure. Just a heads up, man, we got about 10-15 minutes left in the podcast. I think we could knock out a couple more questions, so throw me another number. Okay.
I do want to end on 34, so before we get to the last question, I want to make sure we end on that one. 34 is a really good number. That's a family number for me. My uncle was 34. That was his number playing football, and that was the number his kids took up after him. So that's something that I associate with my family. So next I use 1, 5, 22, 17. Let me go with the even number. I don't think I have used the even number yet. So let's go with 8.
8. What do you think society should prioritize to fixing the world?
We just talked about it. I think they need to prioritize mental health and substance abuse, especially in the world. Like, I feel a lot of issues need to be around that, or not a lot of issues haven't been addressed that are around that are focused primarily on that. The unhoused community in this country and around the world, it's devastating. And this is more geared towards first world countries, because I know third world countries have a little bit set of like different economics and things going on. So I don't really know too much about that type of setting, so I can't really go on about that. But I'm only talking about like major countries that do have the resources and the ability to actually make that change now. And it's not a pipe dream, it's not a pie in the sky. This is something that we actually could change and do if we put the resources towards that. And we have plenty of resources to make it happen, but our government is not set on enacting those changes because it gets, propaganda gets in the way, and people get put on the back burner until it becomes an issue in their own backyard. Substance issues been the issue since the 80s and 70s, since the 80s with the crack epidemic, but it's only became an issue because it's hit rural white America. And now substance abuse is the issue now. Dave Chappelle put it best in one of his comedy specials of how like he addressed that eloquently. And it's no knock on people. I'm not trying to bring people down or anything like that. But now the United States has seen this as an issue. Now they see it as an epidemic, when this has been an epidemic since the 80s, and we just never really addressed it. We only addressed it by incarcerating people and putting them behind bars rather than actually opening up facilities, rehabs, treatment centers, outpatient, inpatient, having a network, a team around it. If you're having a complex where you're going to fill it up with unhoused people that have mental health, substance abuse issues, make sure you put social workers in there. Make sure you put therapists. Make sure you have a clinic associated with it. Because if you just put those people in an area and you leave them untreated, that problem is only going to just go inside, and it's going to fester, and it's going to turn the area even worse. And so that's I think the biggest issue we face, or those are the biggest issues I think that could be addressed.
I feel it, man. I feel it. And yeah, I mean, don't feel bad about, like, there's no wrong or right answer. It's whatever, like, through your experience that you feel like, needs to be addressed. And thank you for your answer. I'm gonna just jump to 34 because I just realized I had a couple more questions in the concluding portion. But so right. 34, it's a fill in the blank, but life is all about blank.
I think life is all about making memories. Good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, the making memories that are whatever they are to you. People always say life is about happiness, but happiness doesn't necessarily you don't have to be happy all the time to live life. No one ever lives happy 24 hours a day. Happiness comes and goes, but having memories that stick with you. I have some really horrible memories that I look back on that I'm fond of, that I went through those challenges in order to get me to who I am today. And then I have some really amazing memories that I look back on that make life what it is. And I think that's what it's about. Just life is making memories. And how do you make those memories last? And how do you make those memories better? It's, they shape you. Those memories do shape the way you live your life. And I think we all live life differently, and we're ever changing. I'm about to be, like I said, I'm about to be 29. I don't think I'm the same person I was 10 years ago. I definitely not maturity wise. I think I'm more mature. I think I have a better perspective on real life issues that we face today. And I have different goals. I have different aspirations. I have different qualities about me now. But in the end, I'm still that same kid that I was 10 years ago. I'm just hope I'm a better version of that person today. I hope.
No, man, I definitely feel you. When I was probably coming out of high school, 18, 19, I was trying to be a rapper. That was like the goal for me, and that was my dream. And I was on that path for a little bit, but like what you mentioned about podcasting in the beginning, about how you were interested but not taking it seriously. That's how I kind of was with my rap dreams. But yeah, and like you said, just those memories have kind of propelled me, because I basically was able to practice my public speaking. I was able to, get into the mode of like connecting with people or like reaching out, all because of, trying to be a rapper, even though I'm not a rapper now. Well, a lot of people hate it when I say that, because I still like to do it, but just not officially. But yeah, it's those things, that who we were is still who we are. Just like you said, hopefully we're just better versions of ourselves. And I truly believe that, man. No doubt. All right. So we've reached the concluding part of the podcast. And this question is actually from my previous guest. I was trying to figure out a way where I can kind of connect my guests together in a really small way. But I asked them what would they like the next guest to answer. So it's going to be a question from Dandy Eats. Shout out Dandy. And she would like to know, what's one thing you wish you did during quarantine? I know you did a lot of stuff, but now it's kind of like, getting back to a little bit of reality. What's something that you wish you could have put more time into or done something different during this time?
I wish I would have got started on podcasting, video editing, and making content earlier. I didn't start podcasting till October of last year. That's when I did my first one. That's when I finally decided to go for it. The end of October, early November, and so it hasn't been a year yet. It's been a little bit of time, but it hasn't been a whole year yet. I wish I would have started when I had the opportunity, because looking back at the pandemic, it just put a lot of things in perspective. I felt living in the city for a couple of years, everything was going so fast and I just couldn't slow it down. Now life slowed down and it was like, what's actually important to you? I also wish I would have traveled more before, and I took that for granted. And so that's something that I wish I don't ever want to not do in the future. I want to make sure I do my job and I go and I travel and I live my life. And also, I wish I would have read more during the pandemic. I wish I would have been able to read and grow and have different thoughts and stuff like that. Kind of feel like I wasted it on things like sleeping. I feel like I slept so much. I feel like I just hibernated, basically.
No, I feel you, man. Same here. Same thing. Like I said, I started this in January already when I had a job and a new job after the pandemic. And yeah, it sucks to feel like we were so spoiled with so much time. And but you know, I think the things that we did has brought us to this moment where we're doing more positive things. But I wish I had, like, you know, done this in the beginning where I could like schedule 8 interviews in a day and, you know, do those kind of things. That would have been pretty dope. But now it definitely makes me value my time more as far as, you know, what I want to fill my life with, you know. So I work, I do this podcast, I sleep. That's my rotation now, but I wouldn't have it any other way, and I'm glad I realized it. And you know, up to this point, for sure. So my next question for you is, what would you like to ask the next guest?
My question would be, what are you doing to make an impact in someone else's life that you don't know?
Ooh, all right. I'm typing it out right now. What are you doing to make an impact
in someone's life that you don't know?
Someone's life you don't know. I dig that, man. I'm surprised I haven't came up with that question myself, but but I appreciate it.
It's not an original one, but it's something that stuck with me.
No doubt. And then my last question for you is, what is the greatest lesson you've learned thus far?
That I don't know nothing. And I don't know whose quote is that. Is that Socrates or someone says, what I know is I know nothing. And I think that so much. Like, I don't know shit. Like, I wish, oh my bad, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I don't know nothing. Like, I wish I knew a lot more. I wish I was better prepared at school than I was. I wish I got better grades. I wish I was able to read more books at an earlier age rather than, you know, messing around and doing, I don't even remember what I was doing. Like, I wish I would have been able to work on things. I know we all look back and, you know, hindsight is 20/20 all the time, but I realize I don't know nothing, and that keeps me humble. It like tries to keep me from being my like narcissistic tendencies of like thinking you know everything and being overconfident in things, and just taking a step back. Every time I get too high of myself, I take a step back and realize, you know, you still got a lot to learn, you still got a lot to experience. And in order to help other people, you got to get better. And so that's what I'm taking from that.
Dude, I'm with you 100%, 200%. We don't know shit. You know, even when we think we don't know something, that is not what it is, you know. And sometimes it's all ego. And we kind of need it. It's that balance of feeling confident, but also knowing that that's not everything, you know. And hopefully we can keep that balance. I think that's the key. But yeah, man, I just want to thank you again for your time and the opportunity to get to know you. And yo, man, I had a lot of fun. I thought it was a great conversation. I hope you had a lot of fun too.
I did. I appreciate you having me on. This is actually the first podcast I was on someone else's. Dude. I'm usually the one doing them, and this is my first time actually doing it on someone else, and it was a really cool experience.
Yeah, man, you gotta I'm sure I'll be honest, I haven't checked out all your stuff. I've just checked your clips and stuff that you posted on your IG. But I think it is valuable for people to get to know you too, man. So I'm glad you came onto this space to have that as the first opportunity. I appreciate it. And tell the people where to find you. How can they come and support what you're doing?
You can find me on Instagram, escape from San Francisco _podcast. You can find me on YouTube, Escape from San Francisco podcast. You can find me on Facebook as well. I haven't really updated Facebook as much, but I try to make a page, and there's so much things going on. But also, I'm in the community. I'm out here. I'm in San Francisco. I'm trying to help out with different organizations. If you're involved, and it's a small, community out here. San Francisco's not a big place, or the Bay Area. We kind of all know each other. If you see me, say hi. If you want me to help out or with your organization, message me on Instagram. If you want to come on the podcast, let me know. I love having conversation as well. I love connecting with people, and that's how we get better.
No doubt. Thank you, folks at home, at work, in the car, whatever you're doing, checking out the podcast. Much love to you too as well. And yeah, man, I haven't really figured out a good way to close out my podcast. I've been trying to figure it out, but